This is the Meaning Business Podcast, your go-to source for business tips, advice, growth, and exit strategies, hosted by Bruce Kudry and Peter Spinder. Each episode, we bring you real stories, expert insights, and practical advice to help you succeed in today's market. Let's dive in.
So welcome to Meaning Business, the podcast for people who are looking to buy, grow, or sell a business. Today I'm with Pete Spinder. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Bruce.
And we have a very special guest on the line today, Keith Bird, a.k.a. Birdie. Welcome, Keith.
I'm special. I am special. There's no
You are.
Okay. You are the specialist guest we've ever had.
I've been called that before.
He's got his own car parking space. He's so special.
You know, my cheeks are already sore from laughing before we even started recording this.
Yeah, let's not talk about Subway. So today we wanted to talk about plans and Plan B, and how, often in business we don't set out to fail, we set out to succeed. But I think what's interesting is that Pete and I have been talking on podcasts, and Keith's been having a bit of a listen sometimes. You must have absolutely nothing else to do.
Oh, I don't. No, I have a very boring life.
Yeah.
Helps you to sleep.
And Keith made the comment to me about Plan B. So I thought we'd talk about that today, and a different angle on having a Plan B, because normally, it is in business, it's proven to be the best way to go is to have a business plan, a succession plan, a marketing plan. You have a plan and you measure and you test and you see what works and what's not working, and you adjust as you go along. And what do they say? A plan just
Fail to plan is a plan to fail.
That's right. And there's the other one. What is it? A plan that's not written down is just a dream or something like that. Have you heard that one? Yeah.
Yep.
So this could be a nightmare, but I don't think so. It's not. It's a dream, and it's not a dream either. But we talk about making plans and having a plan. But what if you didn't have a plan? And that's what I think Keith drew my attention to, this idea of no Plan B.
Well, I think we also need to define plans. So there's, in my opinion, there's two types of plans. So one is where we plan for success using tools like a business plan, for example, or a succession plan. But then there's the other type of plan that Keith's alluded to, which is what we call the Plan B, which is if this doesn't work out, I'm just going to go and do something else. Oh, I've got a backup plan. I've got extra cash. I'm going to go get a job or something like that. And that to me is almost like this reserve plan where you're pretty much saying to yourself, you know what, I don't really need to push ahead. I don't really need to deal with the negative things that might come my way, because, if it doesn't work, I'll just go and do something else.
So, but the theory, the textbook says you should have a Plan B, right? If this doesn't work, you go to this. So, until Keith it's chomping at the bit here. Do you want to jump in, Keith?
No, I'm just thinking. That's that noise you can well, what I was going to say is it's about a mindset thing. I mean, Plan B, where you do have a Plan B, it just changes the way you do things, because like you said, we can always go back and I can work for my uncle, or I can go back and I can do whatever it is, or take the easy way out if this doesn't work out the way I want. But, it's a Sun Tzu thing, burn the boats. If you don't have a Plan B, it is only one way you can go. You have to go forward. Bruce, I did that myself with my own stuff. I went without a Plan B. I had to make this work, and I'm 8 years out of a 5-year plan at the moment. So,
and no turning back.
No turning back. No, but that's it. But I think if I had a backstop, then things would have been different. I would have had a different mindset, and I would have perhaps made different decisions. I perhaps would have, there would have been times where I may have well given up. I mean, said, I'll do the easy thing because this is so much harder.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's a push bike. You've got to pedal it, and sometimes it is all uphill. We would like some flat ground or some downhill occasionally, but, when it's all uphill, the temptation is, I'll deploy it. You know what I mean? So if it's hard, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like having a running machine in your garage. When you get tired, you just step off. But if you're out of you're 3 Ks from home, you can't just step off. You've got to still be home.
Yeah.
So you've got to do that extra 3 Ks, whereas when you're at home, I'm going to go and have a coffee. I'll turn it up and I'll get off. But if you're out on the road, you can't do that. You have to get home. So I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting take on it. Plan B is important. And I think version 3 of that is probably the pivot. Like now, a lot of people, they say they pivot. So things may change. And COVID, for instance, if you used to make headlight covers, all of a sudden now you make your Perspex making splash guards for every counter in Australia. I mean, how good would the Perspex industry have been?
But see, that's that's more a risk mitigation plan where you say, okay, I'm not going to have a plan B in the sense that, okay, I'm going to go work for my uncle, for example, if things don't work out. But what you do is you plan for what may or may not happen, and you've got different avenues. So, for example, you're playing chess and you want to beat someone, usually you've got multiple moves or should have multiple moves up your sleeve. So, okay, well, if this person makes this move, I'm going to do this. If they do this, I'm going to do this. So same thing in business where as part of a business plan, you should take an approach to looking at, well, what are the potential risks? So what if we had another COVID happen? What if we, had some sort of technology come in? What am I going to do? And like you said, Keith, sometimes what we've got to do is pivot completely as an organization. Maybe we need to experiment more, but the point is that we're still on track. So we haven't gone to plan B as such. But what we've done is we've just sort of veered off course in order to get back on course to where we want to go. So we know what we want to achieve. We know in 5 years' time we want to get to whatever position we want to get to, but the road is never going to be straight in business. I mean, it's always going to be left and right, and it's that willingness to go down the left and right and then just go, stuff it. I'm just going to give up.
Keith, with this no plan B, no turning back, you have no option, you've got to make it work idea, really got into my head. And I think perhaps with that thought in mind, that paradigm, I've looked at so many things lately that I've seen, I thought, they've got a plan B. They're quitting. They've got a plan B. They're not persisting.
Yep.
If you've got no plan B, burn the boats, no turning back, you've got to make it work, right? So,
absolutely.
For example, I saw the Gold Coast Marathon was a couple of weeks ago, and I was at the turning point where you come to the most northern point and then you turn and you run home, and it's the last bit. And there was a lot of people with carrying phones in their hand as they were running. And I would say, 2 in 100 people would pull out at the point where I was. And every one of them had a phone. Everyone had the phone in their hand because that was their escape hatch. That was their plan B. If I don't make it, I can ring someone and get them to come pick me up, right? Yep. If they didn't have that phone in their hand and they didn't have that option to call someone, they've got to get back to the finish line anyway. So I'm thinking of how this has struck me the way Keith's talking about it. If you get transferred to Iceland and you've got to learn to speak the language, you've got no choice. You've got to learn. You have no option. And sometimes that discomfort and that no option, the uphill pedaling, is good for us.
Well, that's what leads to growth. It also drives innovation because innovation cannot happen without willing to take a risk, without taking that punt, without moving forward and be willing to go, you know what, that didn't work this time around. I'll try again. I'll try again. And it's like when the light bulb was invented. I mean, how many iterations before it actually took off? One could give up so easily, but you don't achieve success of any type if you give up. And I love what you said, Keith, that it's a mindset, isn't it? But it's scary for a lot of people.
It is a mindset. And that's why WD-40 is called WD-40, for those of you who don't know. It took 40 goes to get it right.
Is that right?
Yeah. They had WD-39, didn't work because it was trying to make water. And so that was WD-40. So it was his 40th attempt to get it right. So that's the WD-40 story. For those of you who don't.
Are you serious?
Yeah, absolutely.
That is so cool.
There you go, guys. Everyone's got some trivia today.
That's important.
They must have started out with a negative mindset because they called it WD-1, knowing that it was.
It was. It's an unusual name, right? So the history of it is exactly that. So it took them 40 goes.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I think it's a great story.
Yeah, well, there's a fork here when we're talking about the mindset component. So we take WD-40 as an example, and let's take Harry Potter as the other example. So you go down both paths, and both of them, both founders, that had really strong mindset. They were just so committed and dedicated. On the left-hand side, based on what you said, Keith, you've got WD-40, and they knew that in order to succeed, they had to iterate, they had to change the product in order to suit whatever they were after. On the other hand, J.K. Rowling, she actually didn't budge. She was so headstrong. Her mindset was, this is the book. This is the manuscript, and this is how it should be. And eventually it got taken up, and we know where that's gone. So what's interesting about this is that sometimes with the no plan B, we either have to be headstrong and know that what we're doing is the right approach, regardless of what others are saying, and keep pushing forward. Other times, we've got to be willing to listen to what other people are saying and iterate, pivot, make changes until, you know what, we get it right.
So that's interesting because in your case, Keith, you decided you had no plan B. What if you thought to yourself, this is a dumb idea. Why am I persisting with this regardless?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like when I set out on this venture, I didn't think it was a dumb idea. I thought it was a great idea, and I just saw it as being a positive thing for us where we were in our life at the time, and it was difficult, and it was, very, very challenging at times. But I just think it was better, like you said, Bruce. It was better. It was better for your own growth. It was better for me, to go through that and push through that, and it was really quite challenging. And now I'm quite proud of what I've achieved in that.
And you can't buy that.
No, you can't. You can't because it would have been easy, as you know, Bruce. I had many other options open to me, done, and much easier ones. I know a lot of people in a lot of places, and I could have just made a couple of phone calls and done something else. But I chose not to. I chose to stick to my guns and do this, and I think it's been for my own personal development. Even it's been great.
And that's interesting because Pete said something before about innovating. When you commit to something and there's no turning back, and you must make it work, you must have had to innovate or persist or find a way, Keith, to make what your commitment was, make it work, to see it through.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, I think the challenge is always trying to get other people to see it your way, isn't it? I mean, like in business, you're only as strong as your team and the people around you, and they've got to share in your belief, and then you have to make changes to your the mix of your staffing and stuff like that. Because it's, to me, that sort of stuff, it's a cake. And what I mean by that is when you get the ingredients right and all the bits right, you'll get a cake every time. And if you don't, it's a biscuit. So, and that could be one person, or it could be some attitude stuff, or it could be any number of things. If it all works together, you end up with a cake every time. But every now and again, as you know, you'll introduce another person into the thing, and then all of a sudden you've got a biscuit.
Yeah.
But then we got the other element of cooking where, let's say, for example, that you're used to using a fan-forced oven to bake that cake of yours. Now, let's say that you've prepared the cake and you go to put it in the oven, and you realize, ooh, my fan's not working. So then you've got, you've got to make a choice. Do you give up and go, well, I'm not going to bother? Or do you go, well, I'm going to adjust the temperature. I'm going to adjust what I'm doing, how long I'm leaving it in the oven so that I can actually have that beautiful cake that I've been dreaming of. But that's that innovative component. That's that willingness to change. You go, okay, I'm not going to panic. Fan's broken. That means I've got to do whatever I need to do with the temperature in order to achieve.
Yeah, and another analogy is, a new form of oven comes along, new technology. So you've got to say, okay, we're going to bail out of the old one and adapt the new one and make a better cake. It's just going to take a bit of time to adopt that.
But there is the other part, which is sometimes you stuff the recipe up, and you know what? The biscuit that comes out of it is actually really tasty.
Yeah.
And you realize, okay, well, that didn't work, but the biscuits are fantastic. So now the piece of the biscuit co.
Yeah.
So the cake co.
Anyway, we're going to get Maggie Beer on next week. I think I'm taking this in a very funny direction, but anyway.
Too much salt. So while we're talking about Keith told me something else that I thought was an interesting story about running.
Okay.
And it sort of relates to this Plan B concept, at least in my mind. And that is that I'll let you tell the story, Keith, about having a watch.
Yeah. Well, what I did was a few years ago now, I wanted to do a half marathon, and then I wanted to do it under 2 hours. And I crossed the finish line 2 hours and 2 minutes, and I was so disappointed. Another minute. I didn't get my 2 hours. That was horrible. I felt terrible. So I only ever wanted to do this once, but now I had to do it again, right? I didn't do the 2 hours. And a mate of mine was a pretty good triathlete, and he ran the Hawaiian Ironman and stuff. And I asked him for some advice on how I was going to shave some time off. I'm old and slow and useless, and I just wanted any help I could get. And he said, do you wear a watch? And I said, yes, I do. He says, don't. I said, why not? And he says, because you'll always feel like you're running late, and you'll always try to move faster because you always feel like, I must be behind. I've got to keep going. Keep going. So the next year I went back, I did the same marathon. I didn't actually train quite as hard, and I took 10 minutes off my time.
Amazing.
Wow.
So I did it in 1 hour 52, and I was so happy that I had no idea what the time was until I got to the finish line. That it's always felt like, if you're running for, as you guys would know, if you're running for 1 hour, or 1 hour and 52 minutes is a long time to be doing anything. And so 1 hour and 52 minutes, I was like, oh my God, this felt like 4 hours. Another beat. And I'm like, going to be doing the other, oh, it's 1 hour. I was trying to speak to Steve what it was. Like, oh, hurry up, faster. Anyway.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
Keith never wears a watch now.
Subsequently, I'm late to everything, as I've hosted this podcast.
And everything seems a lot quicker.
Yeah, that's interesting because if you and you're right, because if you did wear and I mean I do a lot of running and that sort of thing, and quite often I don't even take a mobile phone. I don't take anything, and people are shocked when I tell them that I don't put everything up on Strava, record everything, and I'm like, I don't need to do that. But what's interesting is that when you do run using a watch or using a phone and you're timing yourself, often you've got this thing where, okay, I want to beat 2 hours, like in your case. So you're focusing on the number 2, and mentally you might say, okay, I want to beat it. So I'm happy with a 30-second beat. But if you don't have it, you could beat it by 10 minutes because you're not focusing on the number 2. You're just focusing on running.
Yeah.
Running as fast, as effectively as you can.
Yeah. So it's just a thing, like not having that technology there to help me, just help me run faster. You know what I mean? It wasn't training, it wasn't anything else. It was just the fact that in my head, I felt like I was running late all the time. I had to keep running. So that was really interesting.
So Keith, what's the key takeaway? What's the key message that you want business owners listening or watching this video? What's the key message that they should take away?
Well, I guess for me, it's stay on path. Like if you've got a good goal, you've got a good plan, you've got a good, you've got the business acumen and the wherewithal to do what it is that you need to do. Don't be distracted from it. Don't deviate from it. Stick to it. Stick to your goals. You know what I mean? Don't think, this doesn't work out in 2 weeks' time. I'm going wrong. So why? Don't do that. Just stick to your guns. You'll surprise yourself. You know what I mean? Because, we're all our own hardest critics, as you know, and you might surprise yourself. If you just stay on point, you know what I mean? And don't have that plan B and don't give in to that because it's the easy way out. It's like everything. The easy way is never the best way. So,
and don't wear a watch.
Don't worry.
Don't wear a watch. You might be late to a few meetings, but that's beside the point.
But Keith doesn't need a watch at home because his fridge is...
His fridge tells
My
him
fridge
the time.
tells the time.
How does your fridge tell the time?
Yeah. Well, for those of you sitting at home, you'll understand I'm a bit of a late night snacker, and I'll go to the fridge like 9:30 at night or 9:45 at night, and I open the fridge and I'll hear someone say, "It's 9:45. What are you doing in the fridge?" So if I want to know what time it is, just open the fridge. Someone will tell me. I did better.
So I've learned a few things today. WD-40 was the 40th iteration.
Yep.
And you don't need a watch. You just open the fridge.
Just open the fridge late at night. That'll about it. You don't know what time it is.
But I think also what I think is really the other philosophical thing that I think we want to think about today is no plan B, being committed. And my last point on this is, to me, if you, being old-fashioned, I suppose, you marry someone, you're stuck with them forever, and they're stuck with you. So you might as well make it work. And to me, that's a good example of the no plan B. I
think that's a generational thing too, Bruce.
Probably.
People pay when we get married don't see it that way. They think, oh yeah, it's okay to not be married anymore. Whereas when you and I, because we were a little bit older than some, got married, you didn't even think like that. It was not a possibility. It wasn't an option.
No. Well, the last thing that they said when I got married was "till death do us part." Like, okay.
Yeah, well, that's it.
We're locked in here.
Well, marriages only end in 2 ways, Bruce. Divorce or death. Pretty much.
No happy ending there.
The only 2 options you have.
But really, once you make that decision...
neither one's very good, really.
But once you say to yourself, that's it, we're together, we're in this together, that's it, with no plan B, we're not, it does make a difference, I think.
It does. And what it also means is that when you've got the ups and when you've got the downs, especially the downs, keeps you in line and you're more committed to the process forward as opposed to going, let's just get a divorce because that's just the easier thing.
Well, it's not probably easier, but you do have those uphill pedals, as Keith talked about. But That's life. We're going to have them regardless. So the no plan B is a great philosophical way to treat business and what you're doing, whatever it is in life, really, not just
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think it is. I think it's a great thing. I mean, like, it is good to have a plan B at times. There are times when you need one, but, you know, it's a very powerful thing not to have one. It's very powerful. It will help you achieve your goals.
Yeah.
Mm.
And on that note, thanks, Keith, for joining us today. We really appreciate
All
it.
right.
It was
absolute
really
pleasure.
worth the effort to get through the technological stuff that you had to do to get you on board. So
Oh,
thanks very much, and look forward to talking to you again in the future. And if anyone's interested in contacting Keith, we'll put a little note down at the bottom of the page where you can contact Keith.
Thanks, Gabe.
thanks, guys.